Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Ali Iftikhar, and I talk about Canadian immigration. But this is a special episode where I have invited a special guest who is a guru, who is a sales trainer in Ontario, Canada. And I would like to introduce her in a bit. But keep in mind that you need to watch this video till the very end because there would be many key takeaways from this video. And if I introduce my guest, she is basically a sales trainer, and she teaches people how to go about developing their businesses through lead generations, through cold calls, and what are the techniques and the software currently used in the market. So she's the right person to talk about sales because I come from a sales background as well, 10 plus years of experience in sales management. So I thought that Nicole is the right person to ask about the sales industry scope in Canada in the year 2022 and how it is going to look like in the year 2023. So, Nicole, would you mind introducing yourself a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I'm glad to chat with you here on your YouTube channel. Lots of fun. I am located in Toronto, Ontario, and I help companies get in the door through effective cold calling. I also have, training that we do online, sales, presentation skills, customer service. We help call centers. Anyone that has any issues with communication or want to be more effective is what we do here. And the company is Prospect Win.
Oh, Prospect to Win is the company name. And you have a YouTube channel as well, right?
I have a YouTube channel. It's Prospect to Win with the number 2.
Oh, awesome, awesome, awesome. So, Nicole, how long have you been a sales trainer in your line of work?
Well, I started off with presentation and public speaking training years ago. I had a little detour. I got into real estate for a little while, but then I got out of it because this is my true passion, right? Working with people. I also produce content. I write for different magazines and I provide tips again, communication, sales related, prospecting related. You get the drift, right? So it's been going on for a long time, many years. I don't want to say, shh, older than you. So,
All right,
but
that's
yeah,
perfect.
at least 15, 20 years.
Wow, wow. And you, I mean, you don't look like a person who has worked in sales for 20 years, okay? But anyhow, my audience is majorly from India, Pakistan, UAE, Middle East. So there are many agencies in these countries that talk about job prospects in the fields like farm workers and agricultural sector because they think that they can lure people into getting these jobs because of the low level of IELTS requirement and other stuff. But I wanted you to, I mean, tell about the importance of sales sectors having these white collar jobs where you could be a sales rep, where you could be a business development officer, where you would be working with the people. Not necessarily the whole Canadian economy is based on agriculture or it is based on farm workers or fruit pickers and the small jobs like that. Or it does not only mean that when you go to Canada, you'll be working in McDonald's, you'll be working in Tim Hortons. No, there is more to Canada than the survival or jobs. So, would you talk about the scope of sales industry in Canada, how you're looking at it right now?
Sure. It's true. I mean, it's difficult for people who want to migrate here and, get into business development. It's hard because you're right. They don't want to come and work for McDonald's or Tim Hortons. They want to do much more than that. And, business development is a good way to get in. It is because there's a high turnover. I don't care what industry you pick, right? There's a high turnover. I'm watching people make calls. I have a team of people that make calls and help us. And I see a high turnover there. I see a high turnover in call centers. There's a high turnover. It's just the nature of business development. So really getting in and learning and taking the time and, cold calling, a big thing. People don't like to do it. So the ones that actually like to do it can learn so much. And it's a great start to build into an organization, right? It's a way in. And it's just that persistence and determination that really stands out. You don't have to be perfect at it. Like I'll give you an example. I worked with a couple of young people last year, and I'm going to call them A and B. Okay, person A sold me on the way they communicated so well, perfect words, and then person B was a little rough around the edges, but guess who did better? Person A or person B, right? Initially, I thought person A was going to do better. Now, person B did better. Why? Because it was the determination and the persistence that made them do well, right? So keep that in mind, for individuals who are not, because there's a confidence barrier, right? Like there's a language barrier there. It's harder, right?
Yeah. So, Mr. B looked like that he's going to lose this. But when you talked about determination, when you talked about persistence, then I came to know that Mr. B is going to win this competition because you see, it is sales jobs are not the dream jobs for many people. Why? Because we fight many battles every day that we lose, right? And you talked about cold calling, and cold calling is like getting into the battles and losing many, but yes, you win some. And it reminds me of my cold calling experience, by the way. When I was a student and I was studying a Masters of Business Administration, then during my summers, I worked in a call center, and
Mm-hmm.
I was on that Bell Canada's TV project. So we used to cold call people in Ajax, in Mississauga, in Brampton. We used to call the people over there while sitting in Pakistan. And we had a pseudo name. I'm sure you would be getting calls from these people whose accent sounds like they're not from Canada, but yeah, they have these pseudo names. So I was one of those people, and Bell TV project. But to be honest, cold calling in Canada is very, very. I would say it is nicer than the countries like UK, because I've studied in the UK, and people in the UK, they are more expressive, I would say, and people in Canada, they are more politer. On the other hand, and how is the experience when you teach people how to communicate with Canadians? Uh, do you ask them to look out for the people who are polite, or do you just give them a general instruction on how to make those calls and how to, get them agreed to whatever you're selling?
I would say stick to the plan. Stick to the plan. That's more important than how polite you are or how polite someone else is. And it's an interesting take because it's all relative, right? Depending on what region you're in. It's a good point you made because we take it for granted. I take it for granted. I just think, oh, everybody's the same here. It's not true. So you made a good point there. But really, you can't control what is going to happen on the other end of the line, right?
True.
And it's interesting that you say polite because I deal with a lot of rude people. Like when we work with people, we're dealing with, well, what do you want? Like, why are you calling here? And yeah, we could be a little more polite relative to other countries, but I hear it all. We hear it all, right? No shame whatsoever to hang up on you and cut you off, and that's just part of the whole, unfortunately, the rigmarole. There's
Yeah,
nothing you can do, right? Like you have to kind of go through that process,
that's
and
true.
if
That's true.
individuals come in from that right mindset, then they can do better. They
Yeah.
will do
So
better.
a very interesting takeaway from that. I just wanted to ask you a little basic level question. When we talk about sales industry and then we talk about business development, this is a niche within the sales industry. So, business development, what are the jobs that we're looking at? What are the designations? Like, is it going to be called business development officers, or what will be the job titles that people should be looking out for?
Inside sales reps, you see that often. Inside sales reps, outside sales reps. So for field sales reps, those would be, I would think, the top three. You might get business development manager, but the manager isn't really a manager. They're not managing people. They're just managing the account, right? And you might get into account manager. So these are some roles, right? Those are some titles to look out for.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. And talking about inside sales, I recently took a course with HubSpot about the inside sales, and they talked about the ideal candidate, how you create the persona, and how you reach out to people, make the discovery calls. So this was very enlightening for me. So, would you have any idea about the expected salaries of, let's say, a sales rep? Would you have any idea about that?
Well, it really depends on the industry you're talking about. So you can even have another title for people to stand out to look out for is junior sales rep, right? Or senior sales rep. So if you've got a junior rep, let's say in a recruitment firm, I'm not sure what the exact numbers are, but a junior rep could make maybe 30 grand to 45 grand per year, like a junior rep who's never really done much out there. They don't have a ton of experience. It can even go lower than that. I don't want to say that, but it can. And then you have just a regular sales rep who, let's say a recruiter likes the way your resume looks and, you have some experience on your belt, or, you might look at like 70 to 100 $1,000 per year, depending on the structure. So it can significantly go up if you have a few years of experience, or it can drop down. And also, like if you're in real estate, right, you're basically commission based fully, or getting into commercial real estate. So residentials, you're fully commissioned. But in commercial, you might get like a low base of $40,000 a year, with certain brokerages, or $45,000 a year. It's really not a lot of money, but they give you that for a few years to start off. Those are some numbers I can,
Yeah, I mean, that's
like
awesome.
think
That's
about.
awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. I just have last two questions. One of these is it has to do with the harsh weather in Canada. You see, winter is coming. It's already half of November is already there, and we would
Yeah.
be seeing snow in Ontario as well soon. Because in Alberta and Saskatchewan, I hear, because I'm here in Pakistan, and I'm arriving in Ontario on 18th of November. So I might be expecting a snowfall in the coming weeks. So talking about the outdoor sales, because there is a huge market for the newcomers that they can
Field
get
sales
those,
reps.
yeah, field sales reps. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, talking about the harsh weather, how do you see? Is it comfortable really, or do you go out on a bike, or do you go out on foot, or companies usually provide you cars, or are there any amenities related to that or not?
Typically, typically you have your own car, and typically weather's not an issue unless there's like a snowstorm and like it's, like some crazy weather going on. But typically it's not an issue. People are used to it. They just do it, and that's part of their day to day. See,
Yeah,
we take it
perfect.
for granted here. We take it for granted here, right? And
Yeah.
right now, our weather is actually not cooperating, but in a good way. It's really warm out for us for November. It's just not typical of our really cold winters, right? So we're lucky right now.
I would like that because I'm more accustomed to warm weathers. And a last question of the day. When we talk about the skills required for, let's say, jobs in business development, jobs in sales, what would you think are the transferable skills that a person coming from a background from India, from Pakistan, what would be the transferable skills that somebody needs to work on before coming to Canada so that they
Mhm.
can transfer those skills and get the jobs that they need?
Okay, because of the English barrier, in this case, I would say communication skills would be number one. Okay. That's just because of the barrier. Otherwise, I wouldn't, it's important, but I wouldn't put that as number one. But this, I would put communication skills, listening skills, which is part of that, being persistent, looking at reliability is really key. Being reliable. You don't want people coming and going and then just disappearing on you. Reliability is so important, hardworking, dedicated, all of these factors. And then, of course, willing to learn. That's a big one because, as I mentioned earlier with person A and person A, they sounded so great. They were great communicators with me and they communicated great with me, rather. And, I thought, oh, yeah, this person would be great over the phones, but they weren't producing anything. And then I had the second person B, who, they were just real with me. Oh, Nicole, am I doing it right? Is this okay? Like they were a little nervous about it, but guess what? They overcame that faster and they excelled because they were willing to learn, reliable. These things are so important and they're hard to find.
Yeah, so a person should be trainable, a person should be teachable. That I mean, the companies do expect that the person would continue learning, and a person does not. Because in Pakistan, if I talk about Pakistan's sales markets, we who work in sales, we think that we are Mr. Know It All. Like we don't think anybody is beyond us. If we are sitting in a meeting and there is a wholesaler, there is a distributor sitting in front of us, and whatever he has to say, we have to come up with a rebuttal. We cannot let him overcome our argument. But in Canada, probably that's not going to work, and we need to like make a conversation. We need to start the conversation in the right manner, and then we have to actually find the need of that person. Because I'm talking about B2B currently, but B2C would be different, right? B2C is that every individual is a king of his own life or a queen of her own life. So we have to treat them in that way. But that is very interesting takeaways from your conversation. Thank you very much for that. And I mean, I wouldn't really get into this sales versus marketing versus IT jobs because I work in sales. So I want to be able to share this video with my colleagues that okay, here are the opportunities for you if you want to immigrate to Canada. So this was a great conversation with you. Thank you very much for letting me interview you, for giving me the opportunity to interview you, and I hope to see you when I arrive in Canada.
Awesome. I look forward.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Bye bye.